Welcome to your awakening. Please take all as your reality is adjusted.
And we're back. We're back since last week. Back once again, like a renegade master. My YouTube stream hasn't started. I'll try refreshing the page. Hopefully it will work. It does this sometimes. Yeah, there you go. No, it's working. Right, mute that. Thank you. And put the chat back onto live chat. Because if you leave it on the default top chat, it crops out a hell of a lot of the comments. Noticed earlier it had blocked off one of Paula's comments, and it's like, why are you even blocking that comment? There's nothing weird or unusual, or there's no swear words, there's no keywords. What the fuck? But Google, being Google, their list of keywords and phrases must have got fucking enormous by now. The number of years that they've been, steadily building up this shadow banning, shadow censorship system. It's censorship, basically. Yeah, simple as. But yes, we're still here. Hello, welcome back again. Another edition of Solid Excalibre. You see, the guy, look, you can tell he's wizened. He's a wizard because look at all the lines in his forehead. He's definitely wizened. And he's got the glowing orbs and everything. Look, workshop full of glowy things. Yeah, fantastic. just for once, the AI did a fairly good job.
Yeah, you got a glowing orb as well. So
yeah, and we can't quite see it at the moment because of the position of the avatars, but it actually got the hand correct. Yeah, it didn't come out like you said. It didn't have 5 fingers and whatever. Yeah.
You kind of look a little bit like Anthony Hopkins there. Anthony Hopkins with a beard and long hair for sure.
Yeah, it does a little bit.
Yeah.
I can see somebody else's face in that. A guy who played Lawrence of Arabia. Oh, I can't remember his name.
Peter O'Toole.
Peter O'Toole, yes. That's look at the eyebrows and the shape of the eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good image. It's a good picture. Yeah. It's a shame that some poor starving artist somewhere hasn't got paid because you use an algorithm to do it.
I never get paid.
Yeah. It's a funny thing about being a volunteer. You don't get paid.
Damn it.
The clues in the definition of the fucking word,
Yeah. I signed up to be a trooper, so.
Yeah, that's the way
Here I am.
Treated.
Yeah.
You get thrown into enemy lines and you're expected to just think on your feet and survive as best you can. So you've got to be able to stand on your own feet and make your own way. So you're definitely a trooper. Right, where's my notes? Give me notes out. Just so I can at least try and make some kind of sense out of this. And we got Paula in tonight as well. I did ask Pete send an invite to Rob as well if he's wanting to join in. If he's not busy, he's welcome to join in. I thought it was more appropriate. We have multiple people's points of view on this stuff this week because mainly talking about the by-elections that have just taken place. I mean,
Rob's busy, so that's why he didn't come.
That's okay. I know he's not always available on Mondays. But yeah, I think most people have probably already figured out by the subtitle. If you even notice the subtitle, I don't know how it goes with YouTube sharing notifications anymore because I almost never get notifications for podcasts anymore. I always have to go to the channel and look to see what's upcoming and then open it myself, because YouTube just doesn't seem to send me the notifications. But anyway, that's part of the censorship again, isn't it? Yeah. The subtitle for this week to coincide with all these by-elections and other political silliness that's been going on. It's the far age de Saviour, and his magical change machine, far-aged. The way I worded it deliberately is to make it sound like he's far-aged, as in he's really old, but also it could be a little bit like new age, as in he's constantly talking about what's going to happen in the future, but we never seem to reach that future. Maybe, we'll see. I just, as you mentioned, I am very cynical about a lot of this stuff. So I'm not pinning any hopes on Farage. If I could roll my R's, I'd do a long rolled R whenever I say his name, because it just seems appropriate. Farage. But I've never been good at rolling my arse. But yeah, I don't trust him whatsoever. I don't think he's genuine. And he's been through a pretty much identical scenario before with the UKIP party. And we've reached the same kind of place that he did before with them, when he decided to just throw in the towel and walk away and leave them in the shit, basically. Leave them disorganized and falling apart. So maybe that's what's going to happen again this time. But I thought we could have a general discussion about it. And I definitely lifted the change machine idea from the UK column. I was listening to them this afternoon, and they mentioned the simple observation that the word reform, when you're talking about the Reform Party, the word reform is just a simile for the word change. So you can use either word to have approximately the same definition. To reform something is to change it. So we're in that same position. The change machine, the Reform Party is the change machine, because the public are so desperate for change. But I think, I'm guessing a little bit, I'm presuming a little bit for most of the audience. I know you're generally of the same opinion. When people say they want change, what they're talking about is they want to roll back the changes that have taken place over the last 20, 30 years, maybe more. Yeah, in other words, they want to go back to a time where things seemed a little bit more sane and reasonable. There's debate over what kind of decade or time period you're referring to when getting into that kind of conversation. And there's certainly a romanticized conservative view of the past that often dominates right-wing politics. And right-wing politics, even though everybody rails against the idea of being pushed into the right by the government propaganda, which, that's what they're doing, so they can have an excuse for there to be an opposition that doesn't really exist. But that kind of older person's perspective or elder view of the past often concentrates more on the conservatism of political ends or political ideals, rather than the potentially risky endeavours of extreme liberalism. And I'm sure a lot of people would argue that the reason we've got a lot of the shit that's happening at the moment in society is because people or politicians have attempted to pursue a path of quite radical liberalism applied to our society. So, when people talk about change, they're not talking about changing to make everything more liberal. They want to go back a bit. They want to go back maybe a few decades, maybe half a century even. And that's something that Farage has been very good at portraying. He likes to represent himself as being old England. He likes a pint and a cigarette, and he'll happily chat to anyone, no matter what class of the country they come from. Working class, aristocracy, middle class. He don't care. He'll talk to anyone. He's your best mate. He's your neighbour. He's the guy who lives just across the road. Yeah. He likes to present himself as that everyman, even though he is very much from an aristocracy background, and he's most definitely a royalist and a statist. So anyway, I could rant. I could try and rant longer about the general political point of view to do with Farage and what he's doing, but I'm rapidly running out of breath, and I think I've said enough already anyway. It's giving you a rough idea and a sort of painted the picture of the subtitle. I don't trust Farage. He's honest. I think he's making a lot of promises about what's going to happen in the future, i.e. the far age away. It's not there yet. We're not there yet. But he's talking about how things are going to get changed. And he's promising that the Reform Party is going to be replacing the Tories to usher in a return to sensible politics, you know, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, go on, mate. Give me a chance to catch my breath.
Yeah, well, I have a very bad feeling about Farage, and I had that for fucking ever since he fucking joined the opposition, I guess, because he's not an officially opposition guy. He got kicked out of the party, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think he's a controlled opposition, and he has been since day one.
Yeah, since the start of UKIP.
Yeah.
So I think they are trying to basically repeat what was for them a success by using UKIP the way they did. You know, it gathers up a lot of those discontented voters and it re-engages them into the delusionary belief of the political system. And once the fallout occurs and the party falls apart and, you know, the prophesized change and whatever doesn't happen, most of those voters will just turn back to the Tories, you know, because there'll be a party that still exists, you know. Yeah. Despite what Farage is saying about them replacing the Tories, they're not going to replace the party that's been in Parliament ever since Parliament was fucking invented, you know.
But you know, give me an update on that by-election, because I missed that completely.
Although Paula's wording of it was better.
Yeah, well, we've had, I think you can check your own local numbers, but it's 33% turnout. And this is local elections. I'm sure you could go and look at your own local elections, but it's about a third of the population, and it's Britain for the Britons, and it's very difficult to define the line between the Tories, the Conservatives, and the Reform. The Reform, and you say about Farage, I go far rage, because he's just inciting people. Spend your money, put your investments to this, and I'm, like you say, a man for the people, having a pint. Despite his wealth and his credentials, his history, it's well hidden, so people just see this puppet. That's why I've got Punch and Drudy, because whilst they're putting on this show on the by-elections, you're not really seeing anything else go under. But locally, each county's got their own local by-elections. It's been independents come first, and 33% is amazing, isn't it? And Labour got knocked off. Labour got knocked off because they're saying no to Keir, but nothing will change. It's just moving the glasses. You know that old trick where you've got the three glasses and where's the ball underneath now? That's all it is, as far as I'm concerned.
Find the P game.
Find the P. And at the minute,
did Farage do well then in this local election?
For him, when was it, Runcorn? Yeah. Although supposedly when I looked at it on the weekend, they were saying it was only a 6-vote win.
And they did ask for a recount, and they did say that Keir Starmer should have gone up and waved the flag for he didn't even turn up because he didn't think it was significant. But they did ask for a recount because 6 votes seems to be
extremely. I think it's the closest of any vote in the Parliament's history.
Yes, I think it has been from what I've read and understood.
I'm only going on what the news has reported, but I've never seen a lower number before. But yeah, so you could say he did well in the sense of that means he's got about the same amount of support as the Conservatives in that region, but he didn't exactly win by a landslide.
Yeah, because he's not a Tommy supporter, is he?
No,
'Cause I think that's the
he's-
biggest issue for the
he's also
far
not-
right, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's not exactly calling him out either, though. He's remaining somewhat agnostic and ignoring the subject, to be honest.
Is he open Zionist?
As
Israel.
far as I know, yeah, he's a friend of Israel. I've
Mhm.
never heard him say anything about Zionism, though. I've only ever heard him praise Israel in that respect, you know.
Okay, so
or
not very
say that
popular
it's
there
right,
too.
It's right to support the nation state of Israel. Put it that way.
Because he
rather
did
than praise it.
flip flop on the migrant issue, right? He at first he didn't want to stop the boats, and he thought it was good for his electoral kind of a thing.
It's a vote grubber.
Yeah,
Because it's one of the main
he
points.
changed his tune on that a little bit, and
He's gone all out. He's gone all out on the other side now, Pete. He's gone out for because it's
he sounds like all the far right politicians out there right now.
Yeah,
or mostly. Well, I don't think he will act to it. Like, you know, he's not an outsider. You need an outsider to do this, and he's not an outsider. So.
No, not at all. He's like a lounge lizard of a politician. Yeah, he's the kind that, you know, he pretty much lives in Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
You're quite right, though. He is a lounge lizard. He's a chameleon. He'll just change the environment he suits best to be sitting in, and he gets on with all of them. And, you know, he can stand up and say blah 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 blah, but he doesn't really have a foundation. He's somebody that will just blow with the wind. And at the minute, people are following this reform because they think they got change.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, people want change. But that's the distraction, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest fucking psychological manipulations. I'll see if I can find this.
Well, you're good at it.
It'll probably take me ages to find it. I was going to look for an image of a meme where there's a guy behind a podium. It's just a little cartoon meme. Guy behind a podium, and he's asking the audience, the crowd in front of him, who wants change? And everyone holds their hands up. They all want change, just like the public always wants change. And then in the second panel, the same guy is asking the audience, who wants to change? And nobody's put their hands up.
Yep.
So this is a classic psychological manipulation that they use on the public. It's partly the problem, reaction, solution kind of scenario, you know, that kind of Hegelian manipulation. They create problems in society so that you demand change. That way, you're giving them a justification to bring in policy and legislation to enact change. But what they don't explain to you up front is they've already got these policies ready and waiting to serve their purpose. So the chaos that they're creating is the kind of chaos that suits the legislation that they've got ready and waiting.
Well, Obama ran on change, right?
Exactly, yeah. Pretty much,
and then MAGA had to fix it again.
Yeah, but in recent times, and I say recent times, you're talking about going back to like Tony Blair. He made a point of the change propaganda, you know. But it's a common refrain in politics because they know that it is a common expectation of the public. You know, there's problems in the world. The public expect the politicians to sort out the problems for them. So that is change. Yeah. So when they say to the public, oh, we'll bring change, we'll fix this problem, we'll fix it, the public are like, yes, we want change these things that are making us unhappy. So
Tony Blair was the guy that brought in the care thing that reformed NHS, didn't he?
Yeah, the big
and he called it care.
Society. Care in the community.
Yeah, like care, really?
Yeah, it was called care in the community.
Yeah, when they say care, it's probably no care at all.
Yeah, exactly. It means they went from, let's say, 70% of the care they needed, they suddenly went down to 30%.
30, yeah. Completely inverted, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They shut down most of the asylums and the care homes. They put people into community centres and put them at home with visitations from carers and mentors instead.
Yeah. We were on that back in the day, man.
Yeah.
Because it's double speak, right? That's what they always do is the double speak.
Yeah.
They kind of tell you what they do, but in reverse.
In reverse, yeah. They tell you what you're
or upside down or whatever.
Yeah, inverted.
Red is blue.
like they're talking to a mirror image, because in a way, and I know this can get somewhat convoluted
Magic.
and esoteric, but yeah, the legal system is a form of mirror magic, because it creates a false world that relies on using the inversion of what is being reflected. So a living being is represented by a dead corpus entity, your strawman entity. Yeah, it's a corpse, a corpus, it's dead, because it's just a reflection. It's not the real thing. Therefore, it cannot have the life of God in it. There is no spirit in the vessel. So, in that way, it's mirror magic. Yeah, and much of what they do is mirror magic. It's illusion. I mean, Punch and Judy was a classic illusion created by the Masons.
Yes.
To help deal with the problems of Napoleon, supposedly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To help propagate his message amongst the people and give them a unifying culture, or a sense of unified culture. Yeah.
And we could laugh at it at the same time. We could laugh at the little glove puppets at the same time, because we were laughing at Mr. Punch. Seriously,
A very strong weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
they knew
powerful.
about using propaganda even back then.
Do not take it seriously, please.
No, got to be able to have a laugh.
You might. The next step is believing it. Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you're red, whether you're blue, whether you're green, whether you support sausages. It's still investing your energy into that system, and it makes no difference what party you vote for. They're all on the same page. They're all self-serving, self-entitled, vacuum stacking. Let's climb to the top. We don't care where we get to, because they're not there for the people. Some people might start that way. Then maybe there are a few people that genuinely believe they're going to make a difference. But once they join that checkered hall, once they join that establishment, they're sucked in. And if you don't play the game, you're chucked out.
Yeah. And I could argue that they begin in this fashion, but eventually they do become just pure parasites.
Yes.
Yeah. And a bit like talking about Farage as a career politician, I see him as that's the kind of personality he is. He'll happily bounce around like a gadfly between the different parties, keeping things in somewhat of a level of turmoil, so that he has the ability to constantly switch sides, which guarantees him permanent employment for his entire life. So he'll get that big hefty wage packet for being a politician for the rest of his life, and he'll get a fucking good retirement package as well.
And all the speeches they make, and all the endorsements they make, and all the corporations that they affiliate to. So it's like a sponge that they all suck up from. They all suck up for their own good. And nothing's changed under the sun, whether we're talking 2025, 1825, 1725. There's no difference there, except the fact that you've got different parties now. But our investment
is a bit more invasive now.
Yes, it is a little more. Yes,
it also tends to be a bit more subtle. It's less of the kind of press gang propaganda, and instead it's like silly images and what's the word, from slogans. Yeah, every politician has a good slogan.
Well, some of the politicians have had great slogans. Get on your bike, and I'm trying to remember them over the years, but there's this. Sorry?
Boris Johnson. Do you remember Boris Johnson talking about oven ready?
No.
No. So he worked at the time. It gave the media something to push around on the front pages when he's talking about the deal we were going to be having with Europe. Yeah, the deal was oven ready, was ready to go. Like an oven ready chicken. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Just needs bacon. Yeah. See, this is what I mean. It's just a fucking...
Don't forget, Kitchener, your country needs you. We need alerts. We need lots of alerts.
Politicians I think it might have been Groucho Marx said Hollywood is... Washington is Hollywood for ugly people.
Yep.
I think in the same way, you could say that it's also for the unfunny people. Politics is the comedy venue for the unfunny people. Because often they think they're amusing, they think they're good at telling jokes and whatever, but it's just shit.
They don't know what it is. They even act like a normal human being.
Yeah, well, they don't even
They
realize
find it hard
what
to
they say
fucking
is funny.
act normal. Yeah,
I
no.
don't think-
Whenever they try to do normal stuff, I'm like cringe.
They can't act fucking normal because they're not normal. That's
No.
what you. No, I shouldn't be laughing.
Yeah, well, that's it, right?
Right.
It's
It's
fucking
a
horrible.
good
Oh.
synchronicity that you mentioned him, because that makes a good segue to talking about the other main thing I wanted to mention tonight. So
Yeah.
I think the two go hand in hand, really. The fact that we've had this sort of sweeping effect of the Reform Party in these by-elections, which indicates the disquiet amongst the populace. You know, yes, I'm being quite cynical about Farage and blah, 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 but that doesn't mean I can't see the effect that the opportunity or the option of choosing somebody other than the two main shit parties, yeah? But Liberal Democrats, forget about it. You know, they've been done for fucking years now. They're never going to do anything again. But just the fact that there was another party, a third name under Reform that the public could choose, and the fact that they did in large numbers, shows that there is a definite desire for things to be changed in the country. You know, even though we're being forced into endless debates deliberately by the system, the way they throw out the talking points and the dog whistles and the deliberate creation of argumentation and that kind of shit, you know, the divide and conquer effect. The fact that most of the public is talking about a lot of these subjects, you know, it's obvious the public want things to change. As I mentioned earlier, it doesn't necessarily mean change to something new, never been tried before, like fucking low traffic zone bullshit or 15
Yeah, but
minute
not this,
city bullshit.
at least.
Yeah. But what they're talking about is they want to change some of the things that have been introduced over the last 2 or 3 decades. You know, I think that's probably what most people are talking about. And I'm presuming a bit, but I'm gauging it on what I'm seeing people talk about, you know.
Yeah, well, and they know it. So they accelerate their ideas because they see the change coming. So they have to push their narrative quicker,
stuff to the
faster,
front.
harder. Because it's going to be over soon. Because, you know, there are some light, yeah, I want to say
do you think
I don't want to say beacons of light because that's fucking Mason talk. But, you know, like Hungary and Poland and America, even some South American countries, France, maybe in the future, hopefully Germany is looking hopeful.
Do you
even
think
now they're deemed far right, but that's a total farce. But
do you think there's something to the estimations of this year, 2025, or some people are talking about 2027?
Yeah,
I think the acceleration's already hit top end, and we're seeing these effects now. This cascade experience that we've been having for the last 2 or 3 years. I think that is literally what we're talking about. You know, we're watching the slow motion car crash.
Well, there's more infighting, right? So that's a telltale sign that the parties within are no longer happy or satisfied with their place within. So they either looking without, going over to Farage or AFD or whatever party that are, you know, switch right.
Yeah.
And the left is going full in on the demonization on the right. Like it's far right, it's Nazi, you cannot have it, we have to ban it, we have to...
Well, they become the fascists.
It's two extremes.
Complaining about.
It's two extremes. That doesn't work.
Yeah. This was something I saw coming in the 90s. I remember talking about it with my mates back then. I was saying like the left side of the politics, this was all the shit with Tony Blair and whatever.
Shifting so fast, man.
Yeah, they were going so far and so fast to the left that they were becoming the fascists that they claimed to be against, because they were pushing for more censorship, more control, and talking about things like digital ID. Well, back then, it wasn't digital that was suggested, but it was a form of ID card, you know. I remember having that conversation back then with my mates, and I say, like, this is literally the definition of fascism, but they're claiming to be the ones that are anti-fascist.
It's Rage Against the Machine for me, like, you know, those guys.
Yeah.
Look at them now.
When you go,
that's 20 years, right?
Well, it
And
took me a good 10 years to eventually sort of get rid of the legacy of all that. Yeah.
Yeah, but they
Sorry,
completely. Yeah. Go, Paula.
When you go so far right or so far left, so you've got a seesaw where it's up and down, eventually the inertia has to stabilize on a balance. That has to happen. It's always happened. Eventually, when you look at politics, not just British politics, but all politicians, when they go to what they think is the sound piece, what's most popular, whether it's I don't want to put people into boxes because that just won't be productive at all. But if you have your own balance, your own, it's very difficult to say moral high ground because that sounds very elitist, but you have to have some knowledge of where you come from, where your beliefs stand. And when these politicians, far right, far left, they're just sucking in energy from either side. Eventually there has to be a balance. There has to be I don't know, an equilibrium of where both parties realise they've gone really extreme. So it's like taking a ruler. Eventually they go from the far extremes where it goes and it goes tighter and tighter into the middle where there's less bend, there's less stretch, and that's where you start again. Because on the far end you get sprung off. You go too far on the end, you go padoing, padoing, because you're shot off because there's too much spring. You go to a more stabilized area, because I'm kind of putting this in front of my hands trying to explain it. That is your solid base. There are a few places we can all start, but these people, these politicians, it's to do with money, it's to do with greed, it's to do with getting power for themselves. And the people have the power. They just don't realize that people have the power, but they think they know that they put their finger on the public vibrations, but they haven't got a bloody clue what it is really like to live in the real world, because they're in another area of their own. They're in a bubble. And the far right, the far left, when you start throwing stones at each other, you realize you're still human beings, you're still breathing same air, you still got the same blood, you still got the same stem cells and everything else. It's finding an area of common ground where tribes can meet and then start again, because this greed has got out of control. This putting each other against each other, pitting each other's odds against each other. It has to have an implosion. It's like building a house of cards. Eventually, it will fold in on itself.
Or I know this is a bit of a maybe trying to over-explain it in a way, but I'm trying to think how to word it in a natural sense. When anything in nature reaches that point of being an absolute paradox against itself, in other words, as you were describing, the fact that both sides are going to extremes, when you get two extremes creating an abject polarization in nature, one of two things will happen. Either it will collapse in on itself and cease to be what it was, which means whatever energy was part of that system goes back into the local field, the equivalent of something dying and getting reprocessed in a natural way, or it splits in two and you get a bifurcation. That's the way nature deals with this problem of extreme polarizations. Like, this is why I've tried to explain so many times in different ways how, yes, there is dualism in natural reality, the way reality works, but the dualism only ever goes up to a certain equilibrium, a harmony. If it goes beyond that level of harmony, it splits apart or implodes. It either falls apart and collapses in on itself, or it splits into two new separate things. That could be the equivalent of a plant branching, what called dendrification, when a plant will branch a side sprout. That's because at a certain point, I can't remember what they're called, like the little nodes where the plant is building up its energy ready for a new growth spurt. If that build-up of energy gets high enough, it will grow two stalks rather than one. You get that bifurcation effect because the paradox of the two extreme levels of energy can't hold. It has to do one or the other. So I'm thinking I'm not disagreeing with Roscoe either. I think, and I know this is a bit of a almost a placation and an easy sort of get out to explain this, but I think a lot of what is happening is because, as mentioned earlier, they feel that they've already lost control. As this paradigm or this new birth of an age accelerates, then the speed of change increases, which means even their best jugglers can't keep up with the number of balls and batons that are being thrown up into the air. You know, they cannot keep up with the speed of change, and they know eventually they're going to start fumbling the ball in that respect. So they cannot have an outright control of how this is going to end up, how it's going to come out on the other side. And this is why I was highlighting Roscoe's point, because like, yeah, we can define all these different points that he's mentioning and show how, yeah, all these things are happening. You know, the technocracy is being rolled out around the planet, around our ears, basically, you know, while everybody's busy complaining about other things. The councils have been busy erecting all this smart furniture around us, you know. But that's only going to capture so many people because they're trying to do this so fast. Most people can't keep up with it, which means what you get in a kind of separation effect. Like I was trying to explain, you know, other people.
VR is a good example, I would say.
Some people taking it up and others just can't. Yeah. Go on,
look at VR, right? That has been been pushed since the fucking 70s on people.
Yeah.
Like, yo, you can go into the cyber world. There's a whole world out there. You don't have to be in the real world. There's we can do that.
Yeah.
So that idea has been tried and pushed for decades now, and it's still not catching on. So somehow, people still like the real world, the real things, and real food and real women.
I like that comment by Roberto. The flexible branch weathers the storm.
Yeah.
Very much so.
It learns to live with the storm as part of its environmental conditions.
Yeah.
So it has to learn to bend with the wind.
Yeah.
This is why the only trees you see that survive that kind of environment are the ones that are flexible. The hardwood trees don't survive in those kind of windy environments. They get blown down. It's just, it is natural philosophy. That's why I was trying to use that kind of principle to explain the bifurcation effect. Other people in the past have described it. It's H.G. Wells's premise in The Time Machine with the Eloi and the Morlocks. That at some point the development of our what we call technology, because it's not just about computers and flashing lights and whatever. There's lots of things that make up technology. As it progresses, some people are going to get left behind. Or some people are going to choose a side branch. What do you think is going to happen if, or maybe I should say when, commercial space flight becomes much more available and they start offering people trips to colonies? You're going to potentially have whole new colonies setting up under their own political ideals. You're going to have people wanting to create a planet that runs totally on whatever particular political points that people want to raise. I know that to many people that sounds far off because you're talking about space flight and blah blah blah, and they think it's all just science fiction. This stuff is happening now to our generations, potentially your children, because I know most of the listeners are older and maybe not necessarily old age pensioners or that old, but they're certainly in the older demographic. But they're potentially their children, possibly, but certainly their grandchildren, and almost definitely their great-grandchildren will get the opportunity to do something up in space. Whether that be working on a spaceship or working on a station or working on an asteroid mine, something. That frontier is now being rapidly broken down. It's no longer a frontier. And it's a major point why this entire paradigm shift is taking place at this time. Because our technology has now got to the stage where we can populate other dimensions.
I'm being very cynical now here, Cookie, and I'm going to throw this right out into the interspace galactic cosmic wonder. Years ago, when you took a gap year, you might take a back traveling to, I don't know, a kibbutz. But in future, you'll be just going to another planetary dimension for your gap year.
Yeah.
Hypothetically speaking. But when they really...
Kibbutz on Mars. Love it.
It's not funny. We don't laugh at these dark times. We'll go fucking nuts, won't we?
I want Gaza on Mars. Can I have that?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Now, whatever you want. You can believe whatever you want to.
Well, they start building settlements and then somebody will say they're illegal. Yeah. We sidestepped a little bit from what I was going to say when I pulled up this image and said about synchronicity and segueing, because the other subject I wanted to mention was about VE Day.
Yay!
Because
I got a clip.
The propaganda to do with the elections coincides with the propaganda they've been pushing out about VE Day. They're taking us back to a wartime footing again, aren't they? So they want you to be in that kind of blitz frame of mind.
Yeah.
So you got a clip, yeah? Go on then.
Yeah, here we go. Sausages.
What's that? A turd?
Fucking, I don't know.
So he's got a turd.
I think she made it.
Cakes. Oh yeah, it could be one of her butt loaves. Look at him with fucking.
He's serving his fairy cake. His fairy cake.
It's hard to watch this.
Yeah.
Look at him. Smiling.
Let me know when it becomes unbearable.
I'm normal.
This tea is free.
I'm normal.
Lord Ali donated this teapot to me.
Stick a piggy out. Oh, diverse.
Do you want black tea or white tea?
Jamaican tea.
You want sugar in that? You have to go and pick it yourself. Go on, get back on the plantation.
Want some ganja?
Yeah.
I'm listening seriously to what you're saying. I'm fucking zoned out. That's what he's saying.
Teapot holding a teapot.
I saw a clip earlier of him watching the VE Day parade, and he had a veteran sat in front of him. And at one point, this was on a live broadcast on the whatever channel, one of the news channels. And while he sat there watching the parade, the look on his face was as if he could smell shit. You know, and I was thinking, like, maybe the veteran sat, a guy as old as that guy there, maybe he's just filled his diaper, you know? But Starmer was just sat behind him looking like a fucking twat that he is, you know? But,
there you go.
Yeah, the veterans we care so much for that we just put them away. Let's just jab them, get rid of them, useless eaters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of them went a few years ago.
Your ancestors that mean nothing. Let me take the bunting out. Let me show you the bunting. It's very important bunting. Yeah. Mm-mm. Talking shit.
Farmer's like, fuck, there's still one alive? Jesus.
God.
Yeah, see, this is the... When was the last time... I know, like I said earlier, most of the listeners are older. When was the last time you remember them doing a major celebration like this for VE Day?
Never.
Maybe on the 50th?
30 years ago, Cookie. It was 30 years ago. They did it all over the country.
Yeah. So why is it all of a sudden they're doing this now this year? While these by-elections were taking place, and at the same time...
And the draft.
Yeah, he's made that promise to Ukraine. He's talking about how we need more military production, because that's what's going to support the economy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they want to get more recruits into the forces.
Look at that, lashings of ginger beer and spam on the table for everyone to enjoy.
And the draft is going to help the youth.
The ambulance ready to take him away.
Yeah.
After his battery runs out and his brain shuts down.
Why has he got a face I want to smack? I have no idea.
That's the way he was.
I know,
going.
because he has a face. Yeah. You have to smack.
Yeah, you have to smack him.
You know those covers. You know that film I was saying about earlier, where you
Bit like
put a
Rob, really.
you put a mask on, but underneath that mask, there's this evil entity. That plastic smell, that plastic shit-eating ear-to-ear grin, makes me want to slap his face just as much as I did one of Tony Blair. It was like they're just so sickening. I feel sick just talking about it. Just watching him makes me feel festy. Sorry.
Yeah, that's about as much of him I can stomach, right?
That was enough.
Because he's been shitting all over the fucking vets, really. Everything they fought for. Well, what's left of it? What the fuck is left of it? Come on.
Take away their pensions, take away their rights, make sure they're cold, hungry, starving, and on their knees.
Germans right now, all they need is dinghies, and they just can sail over, get a fucking house, and invade England right now. No problem.
Yeah,
that's the reality.
Right. Yeah, I'm a far right thug. I don't give a fuck. I got my beliefs.
Well, you could always say nigger and get people to send you loads of free money.
Oh yeah, that works.
That's another example of them trying to create a far right that doesn't exist, or to at least throw fuel on the fire of racial tensions.
I showed you in the Daily, right? She's a Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. It's always them. It's always them fucking pulling the strings.
They're good at creating fake hate drama.
You know the whole story, right? The guy that filmed it was a Somali guy who was prosecuted for pedophilia.
Yeah.
And he was at a fucking child's thingy filming that. It was not even his kid that got cursed out. He just, it's all fucking set up.
Yeah, all of the whole thing sounds like a setup.
The whole fucking thing is a setup. Yeah. When it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true.
It's not. It's got up to nearly 1 million or something.
Yeah. She's asking for millions. Up to. Right. Well, last time I checked was like 600,000, so way over 500,000. But yeah.
You know the old saying: if it smells like shit, looks like shit.
Yeah. Well, she can buy a nice kibbutz.
Kibbutz.
She'll probably have to go to kibbutz now to get out of the fucking public eye.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the US, that's it's still a major effect, isn't it? Racial tension manipulation.
Super contradicting at the moment.
They've been using it a lot in the US to try and lever people into conflict. And that incident with the guy getting stabbed over a seating arrangement or something along those lines, yeah. And the guy who actually did the stabbing, the attacker, got loads of money as well from the public donations, yeah. So it's certainly one they've been ratcheting up in the last few months, maybe a couple of years at least. I'm sure it could say longer if you started ticking up all the incidents like this, but the big ones that seem to do the rounds on the social media now, that's again, I'll make a repeated side note about the dead internet theory, because I think we have been gradually funneled into a smaller and smaller internet space, certainly in terms of the majority of the public that use the internet. Of course, there's still people who have their little niche nerdy things that they do, that's unusual websites that they go. And I'm not talking about porn or fetishes or whatever. I'm just talking about stuff that's somewhat of a small marketplace in terms of its appeal to people. You still got them, yes, but the majority of where most people go now is just the big main platforms. And the internet seems to have deliberately funneled and corralled us all down into that smaller and smaller so-called public space. The social media has become the public square, the digitized public square. And they throw in these, like hand grenades, these stories about these incidents that when you start picking at them a little bit, they look more and more like they're completely manufactured. But that the way the internet works now, just the fact that event has been so supposedly documented either in words or video or audio, and is then put on the internet, it's going to have an effect because the internet doesn't forget, and the internet reacts without thinking. That seems to be one of the things about this vicarious brain that we've created. It has a tendency, a habit to react without thought. It doesn't consider the consequences. It just starts screaming and shouting and throwing things. The internet is very autistic in many ways.
Yeah.
It's okay as long as you give it what it wants. If you start changing the parameters, or moving the furniture, or using the wrong coloured plastic plate or whatever, then it's going to start throwing its dummy out and having a fit.
Matt did share a song that comes from his channel. I haven't listened to it. It looks a bit dodgy. I don't know. It's Matt, so you never know.
Maybe save it for Rumble then.
Yeah, well, fuck YouTube, but
it's up to you. It's your channel.
Oh yeah, no, I don't care about that.
Oh, okay, then
it's a bit too early. I think we could end the hour on this. Like if we talk a few more minutes.
How long
it's not a long song, so it's just
cool.
3 minutes or so.
Yeah, well,
whatever it is, I don't know. We'll see.
Have you had in your borough council, if you've happened to have had one of these by-elections, have you had a Reform candidate get in position?
Yes.
I checked here where I'm living, and there isn't here, but it is in the main Warwickshire area.
Yeah, there is here.
Yeah, so they've got a few areas in the centre of England. So we'll see what happens in the coming months. I'm curious, of course, just to see. And like I mentioned, I'm totally cynical about Farage and how it's going to play out with him, because this is literally exactly the same as he did with UKIP. Even down to him running around saying about how they're going to be the new third party that's going to change the face of British politics, blah, 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 blah. He said the same with UKIP. So let's wait and see if he actually carries through on this, even though it's just political bullshit, but is he going to carry through on his political bullshit? So
is there enough? Go on.
No, go. No. Obviously he is, but yeah.
Hypothetically speaking, that they have a landslide. Is there enough Reform? What would I put them? Standing people that will represent these. This is what I'm saying. This new party that's going to sweep in these new changes. They're going to have to find the candidates from somewhere, aren't they?
Yeah, they'll have to create an alliance because there isn't enough members to actually form a parliament.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not as far as I know, anyway. At the last count, there was only something like 6 full members.
Yeah.
So yeah, they'll have to do some kind of coalition. Yeah, that would be real change, wouldn't it? If they bring back Elvis.
Yeah. I'm back, baby.
I don't know about Cockstopper. He's a cockwomble. Yeah.
I think that's one of Spanish's specialities. A cockstopper is something to do with plumbing, I believe.
Yeah, a cockstopper, yeah. But a cockwomble is just somebody who, takes up useless cocks that other people have discarded.
Yes.
And, flops around with them and tries to get them going again. Or repurposes them to other use, like a suit for a politician to wear.
Well, Dr. Rob for president.
Yeah.
I'll vote.
Free show. Yeah.
I'll immigrate and vote.
This is no laughing matter, Paula. Take it seriously. Politics we're talking about now.
Available for free.
No, that's not serious at all.
Exactly. I know.
No, that has had his time, right? I think the it's not even that old. The modern version of fucking politics is like 100 years old. It all of it needs reform, but not the way they like it. It should be like we like it. It's not going to be like that. But
In the British politics, there was only the
George
Conservatives.
Michael Party. Yes.
There was only the Conservatives to start with. There was only the
Faith.
Conservatives.
Yeah, it was only the Conservatives.
Yeah, there was only Conservatives.
Then
Then
they brought in the Whig Party.
yes, and then the Labour, the Whigs, as you said, they came in, and then in I think it was the 1930s, I believe, 30s, they brought in
Social Democrats.
yeah,
Sorry,
kind
the
of
Liberal Democrats.
the Libs, yeah, and then we've expanded to the Rainbow Gay Party. I don't know. It could be the George Michael Party. It could be the Robert Party. Who knows? We've got the Greens. We've got the Reform.
There used to be a lot more independents as well until they raised the cost of application.
Yes.
Because it used to be only £500 and you could run for a position. Politician.
Yeah, I think it was the Monster Raven Looney Party. That was quite that was the 70s and 80s, I believe.
Yeah.
British
But
politics.
they raised it to 5,000.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be able to garner enough support, otherwise you lose your deposit.
Yeah.
So in other words, it costs you £5,000 to stand around in a cold hall for a night and then stand on a stage and be told that you didn't get enough votes.
Okay.
That's how you're supposed to try and get into politics, yeah?
Yeah.
If you want to be an independent.
You're not standing member of the community. Don't forget that, Cookie.
No. I'm just
Farage is paid by Putin, obviously, so, you know.
Putin on the Ritz. Right.
Shall I play the song and then...
Yeah, we'll be switching over to Rumble after this song. And you never know, the YouTube stream might stop midway.
No, I don't think so.
Let me see if I can copy the Rumble link across. If somebody hasn't already done it, I don't think so.
No, I can do it, no problem.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I'd got Spanner in the YouTube for this.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Noise. Yeah, we're getting ready for Rumble.
Done, we will switch over to Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
So if the YouTube stream stops, just jump over to Rumble and we're carrying on there.
Thanks for joining us on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
Good night,
please
YouTube.
like, subscribe, and see you on Rumble. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.
Where you come from, Tom? Who are your parents?
I was raised by my mom, Mary Morello. My dad was part of Kenya's first United Nations delegation. That's why I was born in the United States. My father's Kenyan. My parents met in East Africa. My great uncle's Jomo Kenyatta, who was Kenya's first president.